Hello, welcome to our Friday webinar. We're doing another episode of Ask the Vet with Dr. Tom Tully. Welcome, Dr. Tully, in your festive
Well,
hat.
hello, Laura, and it is the season, and so I have the the festive hat on, and as Brenda likes to say, the cousin Eddie hat with reindeer. He doesn't have, I don't think he has, or reindeer horns and lights, but this is a special hat. So it's the Ask the Vet hat for Christmas. So definitely welcome all of our attendees and looking forward to some presents in the form of questions today and see what we can do. So
Excellent.
I
Yeah,
hope
I'm sure.
you're doing well.
Yes, it's sunny here. It's like in the 80s in California. If you're joining us, let us know where you're logging in from and what the weather report is in your parts.
Yeah.
How's it in Louisiana? Is
Well,
it
it's good. I was going to say Mele Kalikimaka, right? For the California weather, kind of Hawaiian, Merry
right?
Christmas there, but no, it's seasonal. It's very seasonal. The hat would do well, but kind of a little roller coaster. But no, we've had some freezes and kind of cool weather at this point, so we're not going to complain. And the bugs are all hiding right now, so that's good too. So um, Christmas is shaping up pretty good, pretty good.
Nice. I could see. I could think of a numerous number of birds that would love to just land on your hat, like just
Yeah,
giant
I
parrots.
think,
Just.
I don't know. You sent me I think you sent maybe one time a Christmas tree with birds on it, or a tree that had birds on it, kind of perching in multiple branches and stuff like that. But
Oh
no,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
I can't remember exactly what kind of birds, but anyway,
I
it was
think I
very
sent you.
nice.
I think I sent an image of. They're all bald eagles. They're like in
Yeah,
my.
bald eagles. It was bald
Yeah,
eagles.
a
Yeah.
tree full of bald eagles, like a bald eagle. It
Yes,
was all.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah.
not
Maybe,
AI. Yeah,
yeah, share it with
I have to
the
find it.
group
I'll
or
find it in
something.
here.
Yeah.
All right.
So good.
Well, if you're just joining us, please use the Q&A button and not the chat button. And I'm looking forward to see if we have a theme today of questions because this kind of naturally happens sometimes. Let's see. Let's see what our first one is. Okay, here we go. This is a good one. What causes cockatiels to have night frights?
What causes cockatiels to have night frights? And
Yeah.
that's a good question, as they always are from our our webinar attendees. The the night frights, I've been hearing about them since the 80s. The birds having night frights, and and so there's speculation because none of my patients have ever told me why it happens, right? And
Mm.
so you look at it, and all you can do is speculate on why this would occur, and so it's one of those instances where uh, this can occur when of course you have total darkness and the bird loses its can you imagine you're sleeping on a perch, you're perched up, and all of a sudden you slip or you hear a noise out of a deep sleep, right? You
Yeah.
would be flapping around on the bottom of the cage too, wondering where you were, what happened, where am I, what's going on. And so, I mean, kind of anthropomorphizing there, meaning putting a human kind of thought process into what a bird is, but I can imagine that it's dark and you don't know where you are, and it's you're kind of thrashing around on the bottom of the cage to try to get your conscious, and it'll take you, it'd take the bird a little while to get its bearings, right? Okay.
Mm.
Oh, wait. All right. So it takes time. So that and that's night frights, and a lot of times a lot of times, like on the webinar, people will ask questions, and there's the assumption that everybody knows what night frights and cockatiels are, right? Well, everybody knows that. Well, not everybody knows that. And so you have to have a kind of an explanation on what night frights are so people can kind of get an idea. And so
Yep.
what you're looking at is that the birds, it's at night, and the next thing you know, you hear the bird flapping around in the cage, and they can injure themselves, and they have injured themselves doing this. And so it has fell off its perch, or it's flying up against the cage. So that's kind of what people describe, and my understanding is night frights. And so uh, what this is that kind of like in it kind of started kind of when I first heard about it, there were people were talking about like minor earthquakes or tremors or something like that, especially in California, where this would occur at night, and that would happen. But what it is that it's similar to an earthquake. So if there's uh, some kind of noise in the house at night, if there is some type of um, and again, like I said, if the bird loses purchase for whatever reason on the um, on the perch, it'll fall. But anything that is disrupts the solitude of night, and lights, and I see some people like lights or something like a flat, something goes by, and cause the bird this to occur, and that if the bird loses purchase, it's going to take time for it to regain its bearings, like I said, of its environment. So that's what causes it, and there has been speculation, and again, there's nothing scientific, except it's like kind of, a lot of times I say medicine's common sense, but it's just like, well, what's causing? There's nothing that's kind of objective data that I can say has been determined what actually causes it. But there's been speculation that it may be more associated with like we talked about the yellow cockatiel syndrome, or more if that those birds are like a little more predisposed to it, say Lutino cockatiels or what have you. But I don't. I haven't really noted that any bird's more uh, um, prone to it than others. I think it's more associated with the house and the environment, if that would be, that would, and possibly region of the world that you live in. That
Mhm.
if you have, I just saw an earthquake in Japan, and I hope all of people that are going through that, coming through that without much difficulty. But it just depends on where you are, where this may occur. And what I would say is that while you can't prevent, just like you can't prevent bad dreams from happening, nightmares or what have you, that what you can do is that you can kind of reduce and help the bird gain, if this does occur, its bearings quicker by placing a night light next to the cage, where at least the bird can, if it opens its eyes, it can kind of get an idea where it's at and maybe not thrash around as much. That is something. And if you notice that, say, if it's lights or if it's a noise or something like that, if it may be associated and with an HVAC unit coming on, or something that happens, some kind of, that you can move the cage or wherever to make it less likely that that would occur. But a night light seems to help get the bird's bearings a little bit. So there you
Okay.
go.
Yeah. Yeah, my
Yeah,
cockatiel
great
used
question because this is something that people deal with. And I hear, I have little budgies, and I can from time to time I'll hear them, in the cage at night, kind of going around, and so it happens to a number of birds. It doesn't mean that there's anything in 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 most cases such as that. It's nothing that's you know, physically wrong with them, but it's just being startled out of their sleep. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my cockatiel used to give me a 3-minute warning when there's an earthquake. It's just crash on. And then like a couple months, 3 minutes later, boom, there's a little rattle.
Well, there you go.
There you
That's
go.
what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's amazing. That's
Um, so we had a question about what should the temperature be in the house at night? They want to know if 63 is too low. They're in California. So ideal temperature for birds if you're sharing your home with one. What should your
yeah, yeah. Temperature, we get from time, we have recommendations, and the one the and I always try to remind everyone that hot temperatures are much more problematic to birds than cold temperatures. Okay. Birds can withstand cold temperatures and they can fluff up that's why they fluff up their feathers to get all that air to make themselves have a down jacket on and trap that hair to give them that's why they fluff those feathers. They get goosebumps. So those feathers kind of go up. And and the one and so under normal circumstances, it's not going to be where you're going to have an issue with most of the temperature ranges that people are comfortable with. Okay. And so when you're looking at the low 70s, even into the 60s, whatever, that's fine. That's fine. As long as, it's it's consistent. A house is going to be in the summer months, it's going to be on the average, 3 to 4 degrees warmer and 3 to 4 degrees cooler on average in the winter. Okay. That's just the way it is. And even if you have, uh, even if you have, central air conditioning, which most people have, it's still going to be cooler and it's going to be warmer. You should be able to feel that. Um, but low 60s, that's fine. The one thing that you look at with the birds in general is that you want to make sure that they accommodate over time. That's just like you want to, if you have birds outside and you maintain them outside, people who've had them outside, those birds are outside. Let's just say in Louisiana, we have freezes. We have, it doesn't get too far below um, 32 degrees, but we can, and so, but if you're just on regular basis, you can have a heat lamp, but how much heat is that heat lamp producing? Enough, right? If the bird gets near it. But at the same time, the general overall temperature of the environment is still pretty cold if it's close to freezing with a heat lamp. I wouldn't want to, that's not where I'd want to be. But the birds have the feathers and so they accommodate. They've gone through the late summer, they've gone through the fall, it's got cooler. Is as it gets cooler, the body responds, they put on more feathers. And that's like I said, I can look at a bird in January and I can tell you if it's an inside bird or an outside bird. The outside birds have much more feathers than they do the inside birds. And so they develop these and these feathers because of the accommodation. And so they can withstand that. So in a house in general, they are going to have that accommodation. So the low 60s is not going to be a problem. And like I said, with birds, uh, it's heat. The heat is what they cannot dissipate. And their body temperatures are already at 105 to 107 degrees. Okay. So their body temperatures are already that high. And so if you put them in an environment that has a heat index where you take in humidity and you take in temperature, that's over 100 or in the mid 90s, you put them in there for, I guess, where they can't get out of the the sun, or kind of dissipate that temperature. They won't withstand. They won't be alive for 5 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so yeah, 63, in there, that shouldn't be any problem at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I just a little kind of a follow-up question that what about when you bathe your bird this time of year and it's colder in the house? Like you don't want it, I mean, winter bathing, so to speak. Do you
You
want
know,
it in like draft-free area after?
yeah, when you're talking about, if you're doing that within that temperature range, and so let's just say most people have their houses at 70 degrees. Let's just put that. And and if they're bathing, that shouldn't be an issue either. Shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, we have a question about a half moon conure that's 13 months old, so a young one. He has trouble bouncing at times and then falls down to the bottom of the cage. They want to know if they need to take him to the vet or if he's still adjusting to his cage. So he's just over a year
Uh,
old, a half moon
how
conure,
how
trouble
how old is
balancing,
the conure?
13 months old. So just over a year.
Oh, you know, so these are not giant birds by any stretch of the imagination. Um, they're cute little birds, I can tell you. Um, but so the question is that he's kind of uh,
Trouble balancing at times, and then he kind of falls to the bottom of the cage.
in trouble balancing at times. At 13 months, he shouldn't have any trouble balancing. You know, and it would be dependent on what he's trying to balance on. You know, if I'm trying to balance on a ball, I'll fall to the bottom of the cage. But if it's just a regular perch that's appropriate size for the bird, and he's having trouble, maintaining his purchase, um, then I think that I would definitely, at 13 months, just have him looked at, and if anything else, if he's never been, it would be a good chance to develop a relationship and get know of the veterinarian if you needed to take him for any reason, get information. And that's, like I said, if you're going to a veterinarian with your bird, it was like, when I first got out, it was like, people would call and say, well, how much is your exam, and so it would be like, well, I'm going to go to the place that maybe, cheaper, right? And so at first, I said, well, gosh, I'm providing this service, and and doing everything I can to make sure that it's good. And you know, kind of price, price hunting.
Yeah.
And then after a while, I said, Laura, I said, I do the same thing. I look around. Well, how much is Dr. Tully? How much is, Dr. Doring? How much is, see birds. I'll go to the one that, save me some money, right? Considering, well, they're all the same. Well, um, I said, well, that's understandable, but I looked at it in a different way after, I came to like, that's understandable. Um, but what the point is that when you go and you go to a veterinarian and you're looking, you want to make sure that you are going to a veterinarian that cares, that has the knowledge, and your patient is as important as your bird is as important as any patient that they see. That's who you want to go to. And what I what I try to provide that is part of the visit, but it's not on the receipt, is information on that particular bird. We try to provide information on nutrition, caring for the bird, the environment, try to answer any questions, to try to make sure that if you do have questions to contact us so you have a resource. We try to provide an informational resource for you, and I'm all for looking on the internet. I'm all for looking, well, what's this? Or I want to treat the informed bird owner's bird, okay? But at the same time, I would like to be there and say, if you see something and you go like, this sounds good, or maybe I should try that, kind of the ask the vet in real life,
Yeah.
right? Well, this is real, but look at the hat. But what I'm saying is that that's how that's the kind of veterinarian that you would want, and what veterinarians should provide is the information. As important as that visit is to look at that animal, it's the information that you gain is as important, I feel. And that is just part of the exam, but you won't see it as a line item on the cost, right? But
Yeah.
that is as important as anything that you get, or should get from the visit. And that's why with this, it's unusual that a 13-month-old, even half moon conure will have this. It should take to any cage that you put it in, and shouldn't be doing this. It may not be anything, but at the same time, there's all of these other reasons over and above that, a very important reason, uh, and that you're taking it in, that it would be good if it has never seen a veterinarian before. But possibly they'll be able to figure out if it is, really something that is concerning, or that's something that can be watched, or maybe nothing. So, yeah, good question. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank
Yeah, no, it's okay, question about a female Indian ringneck, which they thought for a year and a half they thought it was male. So now she's hormonal and they're trying to get her to behave. So she screams a lot, that they don't even know want to be near her. She started lunging and biting as well. So they live in an apartment building, and up to now she was sweet and semi-obedient, as much as an Indian ringneck could be. But the bird store owner wants them to bring her in so he can place her around a male Indian ringneck and see if she calms down. They want to know, one, is this a good idea? And two, how can they work with their baby to minimize these behaviors until she's not hormonal? So you've got a hormonal female Indian ringneck that's a year and a half. Good
So,
idea. See how she
so,
acts on a male.
so I guess the one thing is that um, why did they thought she was a male, but now they believe she's a female,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's not. And is there a reason that they determined that it was a female? Did she lay eggs? That's the one thing. I mean, that I guess, you know, just trying to get the sex correct is one thing that you could do if it's not as obvious um, with the feather dimorphism in this particular bird. And you bring up some interesting concerns. One, the possible hormonal nature, and we've seen birds that are hormonal being males and birds being what we would describe as hormonal being females. I can think of male Amazon parrots that get rather interesting during the spring. That they go just kind of a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type thing, where they, very friendly and everything else, and the next thing you know, they're piercing your nose during this time, and so you do have these behavior issues, and one thing that I would suggest on some of these behavior issues, and I think that the sooner that you can try to kind of understand what the underlying reason is, and to try to, reduce these incidents from happening, um, the sooner that things will be improving. And just recognizing that, well, this is a problem is one thing, but actually doing something in a productive manner is another. And that is why we have, and again, recommend a number of webinars, and you can look on a Lafeber webinar on the behavior in birds, and there are behaviorists, a veterinary behaviorist out there. But first of all, I think that one of the things that is extremely important, because behavior issues are um, arguably the most challenging um, cases that veterinarians see. Okay. For me, I would rank it at number one, or number one with some other issues. But the challenge, as far as challenge, it is. And I think that it's challenging behavior issues for humans. And so it's not just birds that are challenging. And I think that say humans and animals have challenges, their own separate issues as far as that provide those challenges. But with the bird, what is helpful when you're looking at behavior issues is to try to get as much information as possible, and starting to, as far as, the sex of the bird, and confirming what the sex is. That'll be number one. Obviously, if the bird is a single bird in a cage and it's laid an egg, well, I'm going to bet that's a female. And so, and we've had birds that have been DNA sexed to male, and boom, they lay an egg. So, I mean, that's not 100%, but that is very a high, it's a high probability of whatever you get at DNA sex, it will be, at least through blood sexing. And so this is something that's first, and then also getting some knowledge on when this behavior occurs, how often this behavior occurs, if there's any trigger to the behavior, or the bird just acts like that. And a trigger is something that happens. Does it only behave when it hears this certain noise, or does it behave this way when somebody else comes into the room, a certain person? That's a trigger. Is there something that triggers this behavior? Is this or does it happen? Well, every March 1st, this bird acts this way, and at May 31st, it stops. Is there a specific time that this behavior occurs? All of this information is very helpful, and that's what the behaviorists need to try to help with the problem and mitigating all of these behaviors that you do not want. So, um, and then that occurs, environment, and it's like feather destructive behavior. There's I can go through, birds screaming, birds biting, birds being aggressive, and then you have, what you look at is you say, well, it's hormonal. Well, that's just a speculation. It could be hormonal. There's possibly some, if you go through the history of it, then what you're looking at is going through the history. You can make a determination, and you do a physical examination. You look and make sure that there's nothing else. The birds has no other abnormalities that can be determined. Then it may be hormonal, and then there may be treatment specifically for that hormonal uh, uh, aspect. There's one thing that you can do. You can start just like, and that's kind of the way it is to try to determine what's causing it, because you say, oh, well, I know it's hormonal. And then so just treat it with some kind of medication that affects the that kind of reduces those hormonal levels and makes the bird even keeled and nice and a very happy bird. And then you give it the medication, and then nothing happens. You see, so that's a very high possibility, because there could be, in behavior issues, multifactorial issues going on that results in the behavior you're seeing. So that is kind of what you're kind of looking at here. And the information that you have, I know it's frustrating, because you want to interact with the bird, and you want to, you don't want it acting as it is. And but recognizing that it's a problem, uh, getting in all this information, and working with the veterinarian. The veterinarian may have a recommendation for a behaviorist. You can look online, and again, there's been a lot of behavior webinars. Right, Laura, right, correct on that. On the with Lafeber, you can look and then possibly look for future behavior webinars that would be helpful. But I would try to get this, at least the bird, to someone that you could get started on it, and then go through this. When you're looking at behavior issues and a veterinary behaviorist, just to give you an idea, I may have mentioned this before, but veterinary behavior issues, if you're looking at a veterinary behaviorist, you just don't go, and you just don't go to a make an appointment, go see him, and that's it. Veterinary behavior appointments, examinations and consultation are usually probably between $600 and $1,000, for a veterinary behaviorist. Why is that? Because the veterinary behaviorist doesn't just see you one time. This takes time. You need to get the information. You have to figure out what's going on. And what they do is they if they feel like medication is prescribed, they'll prescribe medication. There is contact. You're in constant contact. You don't have to actually be see them physically. These behavior issues can be there's you can take videos, you can you know, pictures, what have you. This can be done virtually, these visits, and then at the same time, the, most of the time when you're consulting, these consultations go for at least 6 months with the behavior. So it's multiple. So this is over time. These aren't behavior issues aren't something that you go in and for the most part give um, oh, here's some medication that should take care of it. Every once in a while, that's the case, but that's not the majority of the cases. And so the one thing that it takes is uh, behaviors can change. Behaviors can change. You can you can work and change behaviors. But it does take time and it does take uh, an effort, and most of that effort has to come from the owner. So that's a great question, and yeah, and we have behavior issues in all animals, humans, and birds are no different.
True, true. All right, we have a question about a 33-year-old male severe macaw who had a major molt. So he lost 100 plus feathers within a week, and his feathers have been streaked and off color for the past 2 years. So he's been on Harrison's pellets and Lafeber nutriberries in recent months. He's tends to grind up his pellets rather than eat them. Continues to enjoy the nutriberries. He gets a lot of these every day. Despite the dramatic change in appearance, he's adorable. His adorable personality is intact. So he isn't outside, no new birds. The other two parrots near him don't have feather issues. He was treated for bumblefoot last year and continues to make a slow recovery. Um, he was seen by the vet yesterday. The gram stayed negative in spite of smelly poop. Blood was taken for a complete avian with bile acid, and they are also getting an avian fecal culture. So the macaw is very itchy. Would it help to try an aloe spray or steam from the shower or calming tea? So thoughts on how to make it more comfortable.
Yeah, yeah. The it's
Sorry, I
uh,
think you're frozen on my
it
end.
sounds like
Hopefully,
the bird
okay.
has excellent care on that, and the veterinarian is working very very good manner to try to determine the overall condition of the bird and what possibly could be associated with this feather loss. Um, the and so it's one of those things where the feather loss is um, where the bird lost the feathers. I don't know if it was lost the feathers soon or like within the last quickly within the last few weeks, or did it lose the feathers uh, I guess months ago. But the one thing that you could look at is why it didn't seem to kind of how much of these feather losses, 100 feathers, is it pretty much a bird that has no feathers whatsoever? Um, and so the skin is kind of exposed. I would say to me that again, I would I would go more for the shower if the bird enjoys that more than the aloe on the skin. That's just me. I think that that would anything with the feathers remaining on the bird that would be um, anything with aloe or anything on the feathers would just make it more problematic and then bother the bird, and where the bird would may even um, pull the feathers out. Okay. So you have that. And then the other thing that you are mentioning is that it did have bumblefoot, and it was treated and kind of recovered slowly. Bumblefoot lesions are really pododermatitis. It's called podophyte dermatitis, the skin inflammation. And so with that, you can have ulcerations on the bottom of the feet. And if it did have ulcerations on the bottom of the feet, um, if they are not closed in a primary way, it can take a long time, and it's not unusual for the bird to have. And when I talk about a primary closure, I'm talking about suturing it together. Okay, suturing the skin together. And so that's if there's no infection in there, you can get those to heal within 10 to 12, 14 days. So that heals quickly if there's no infection. You'd want to take care of an infection before you close that. But if you just leave them open to heal by themselves, it takes a very long time, months, months. So it's not unusual for that to happen if it wasn't closed. But that's just another way to treat it, and it appears that it recovered. So that's great. The other thing about the feather, and so there was discoloration, and you had feather loss. There's other things that can possibly cause that, and one of the things that could possibly cause that is cardiovascular disease, and it has been associated with feather loss and abnormal feather molting, and so this is a 33-year-old severe macaw, as I recall. And so it would not be surprising that there is some degree of cardiovascular disease, just like if you had an 80-year-old, 70-year-old human, there's going to be some evidence of cardiovascular disease. How severe and um, how much that would be possibly associated with the feather regrowth is unknown. But if there is some evidence that this could be treated, if it may be associated with cardiovascular disease, is something to possibly look at, along with getting a fantastic health assessment by the veterinarian. So you'll have this information that's going to be um, useful in determining and assessing the overall health of the bird at this age. But it sounds like the diet is excellent. The bird's getting what it needs, but unfortunately, there's the age is involved here, and that may be something that can be treated, not the age, like, well, we're going to make it a younger bird, but I think that the consequences of age-related disease, such as cardiovascular disease, that may have an effect on the molting or the regrowth of feathers. Possibly involved, but you may find some other issues there with when these diagnostic tests come back. Well, there you go. And you're muted, Laura.
Sorry.
That's
My internet was wonky earlier. I thought you were in deep thought for a second for that last start of that last question, and then I realized you were frozen, and it was like my end. It was all on my end. It.
well, I was in deep thought. I'm always in
I
deep
mean,
thought, you know. It's
for like a minute, I'm like, he's really thinking about this
he's really,
without moving. So, I had to restart
no,
and put me on mute. Okay, so I have a
no.
question about a 2-year-old Alexandrian parakeet with fatty liver, scoliosis, lower spine, and leg foot issues with walking. Since a year old, he's been having seizures averaging 4 a week, but occasionally 3 in a day. So normally about 15 seconds, sometimes 30 seconds for the seizures. So they tested clear for toxins. Seizures are always after he's been startled or frightened. So as of Wednesday, he is on levetiracetam,
Yeah, yeah, uh-huh.
uh,
Hmm.
0.1 milliliter 3 times a day for epilepsy. So the owner feels more fright seizures rather than epilepsy or a neurological issue. So what are your thoughts on other treatments or meds? That's the
Uh, it's interesting. I think what you should, go ahead and describe the bird from the beginning again. It's an Alexandrian ringneck,
Yes, with fatty liver,
fatty liver,
scoliosis on the lower, I did not,
scoliosis,
on the
uh-huh,
lower spine, and leg foot issues when walking.
leg
Um,
foot issues, and that's
he's had seizures. That's what he's going on.
yeah, yeah. How old is the bird?
A 2-year-old, 2 years.
2-year-old, 2-year-old, and fatty liver already at 2 years old. That's kind of an interesting of finding, and I guess um, the one thing that I would look at is the liver function test. Because it's bile acids. It's bile acids, and that kind of gives an idea on the liver function. Uh, Also, I guess you're looking at what they call hepatic, which is liver, encephalopathy, which is, of course, brain pathology, a pathological process within the brain. So, as you know, that there is uh, liver, as the liver, most people do, is a very vital organ that helps re remove toxins from the blood. Thank goodness, right? Because we ingest toxins in the form of alcohol. And so if we didn't have the liver to remove them, then we would not need much alcohol to uh, a maintain a state of intoxication forever. Okay. So uh, that's one of the things that the liver, an important aspect. And if the liver is not functioning properly, then the toxins within the body and can cause and result in neurologic signs like seizure activity, or as it would appear. It's going to be interesting. Keppra is uh, kind of a short term of the anti-seizure medication, but that is kind of the anti-seizure medication of choice. But you always want to try to determine what is cause of the seizure, so at least you know that either something can be done or nothing can be done to resolve that issue. Um, the scoliosis, so if there's scoliosis, that may be associated with some of that's curvature of the uh, the the back, the spinal, the vertebra in the back, and so that could have possibly the curvature, the scoliosis, could possibly be resulting in some of the animals' difficulty in utilizing its legs and feet. But that shouldn't cause seizure activities. I think we know most people know somebody that has um, a some degree of scoliosis, but they don't have seizures. It doesn't necessarily mean the scoliosis is going to cause the seizures. Um, the liver, if the liver isn't functioning properly, then that is a possible cause of it. But it's interesting that you have a 2-year old ringneck with this problem. And it's not to say that it can happen. It's very possible, but why and how is that diagnosed? A lot of time you can get it diagnosed by radiographic imaging. You can look at X-rays and you can see a big liver, and then you say, well, it's a big liver. You can do a ultrasound. You can do an ultrasound on it. You can get an aspirate of that liver, and they say, oh, look, it's all fat cells. Or you can do an endoscopic exam, and you can use an endoscope, go in there and get some biopsies, and they can look at it under a microscope, and they can say, up, I see a lot of fat cells, and it's all fat cells, and in there. So that would be a means of trying to determine if it's, I don't know if, how that was determined, but fatty liver um, could cause the liver to have functional problems that you can pick up possibly on that bile acid test. The question is why does it have the fatty liver. That would and you may not know, and it may just be something physiologic. It could be something like that. This bird just was predisposed to it for whatever reason, genetically or what have you. But if that's the case, because if you knew possibly how it occurred, then it's going to be difficult. Is the bird overweight? That's another thing. That's one thing that you should look for, because the more that it's out of its normal body condition, then that would be a reason, for that. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, um, let's see if we have time for another question. Is it, I mean, the scoliosis thing was fascinating to me. Is that something that can be corrected in a bird?
Uh, no, not on, not, uh, could it be? Not at this time. That anything that I'm aware of that you can do as far as bracing or what
Yeah.
have you. The one thing that we always have problems with, that's a good question, Laura, because a lot of times you go like, well, can you have a fractured leg or you have scoliosis. Well, we just put the bird in a back brace and have it wear the back brace, or we just put it in a boot, and that'll take care of that fracture, and it'll resolve. The problem is that our patients don't listen to us, you see. And so you put a back brace on them, let's say, and I'm not aware of any back braces for scoliosis, but if you did, then the next thing you know, it's just flipping over in the cage with that brace on, or it's just trying to rip that boot off, and so um, it's not that there aren't things that we may be able to do or try that would resolve an issue. The one thing that we always have to take into consideration is our patience. Is our patience going to allow us to do that? you know, and we don't want to put added stress on the patients with this, and we don't want them to do more harm. So it's always a delicate dance in trying to resolve some of these issues if we try to work, to try to say correct fractures or something of that nature. We end up doing what the patient allows us to do,
Okay.
and so we have to keep that in mind. So yeah, but for scoliosis, no, and that may be an issue with the feet and leg problems. And if the bird has some type of a developmental abnormality, we just had some macaws that came in that had like 7 toes, right, on each foot. And so, so you get these developmental abnormalities, and it's, you don't know. And usually when you have a developmental abnormality, that's you go like, oh, wow, that bird has two wings, on one side, or something that's really unusual, some kind of an abnormality. And, the one thing that, we learned in school is that if you have one abnormality, say the bird has, you know, two ears on one side, external ear canals and one on the other. Usually if there's one developmental abnormality, there's more that you just can't, that you haven't determined or seen yet. Now, the bird can live a normal length of life or not, but if you do have this, that it there's some unknowns there, that there may be internal um, abnormalities that you just can't see. And so with this bird itself here, is the scoliosis, that's not necessarily a developmental abnormality. It can be more genetic, uh, but no, this is something that this bird that we're talking about, this Alexandrian, the owner should just kind of uh, uh, kind of make sure that the bird, all those having difficulty going around, can uh, kind of modify the cage so it doesn't hurt itself, and then hopefully this Kepra will be helpful in reducing that seizure activity. But I think, and then if it's because if it's startled and it has seizure activity, then that's going to have to be where make sure that it's in a place that reduces any excitement or startling.
Okay. Hey, just a real quick question, if you have time for. We talked about the heating indoors. Someone had wanted a question about humidity. So they noticed that the humidity right now is lower, and they think it probably because the heater is because of the heater. So humidity by our cage has been 38 to 39%. Do you know any insight on what the ideal humidity should be indoors?
No, I think that the humidity is going to be generally lower in the winter than it's going to be in the summer, except in certain places, maybe California, and Colorado, because it's always the humidity's like 9% anyway. I'm kind of exaggerating there, but not much. I mean, it can be very low. So. Um, Obviously, I think that even in these really arid areas, Phoenix, Las Vegas, you live anywhere in the world where you have an arid, environment, that I think that the birds will adjust, and so the humidity. I would say that there's not really anything specific on humidity and to worry about. I haven't had any issues as it related to too high or too low of humidity, although it can affect possibly hatching if you're looking at that. But as far as just in overall the bird's general health, I think that whatever the ambient humidity is within the environment will be fine. But the attendee was correct, very correct on that. The humidity is lower, and in general, it is lower in the winter with the colder weather, the cold fronts coming through, even here in the in, in the primordial soup of the southern U.S., right by the Gulf of Mexico, where our humidity in August and July and 1st of September is literally 90 to 100%. It is saturated air, and your windows are nothing but condensate with the air conditioning. Yes, every morning it looks like a cold glass of whatever with condensate on it on the outside of the windows. And so the humidity is even lower here. So no, a great question, but yes, and just like as I mentioned, the ambient temperature within the house, you have the thermostat. Well, the thermostat says it's this, but yeah, feel that house. It's a little cooler in the winter, a little warmer in the summer, So there you go.
There you
Great
go.
questions. Great, great,
Yeah, yeah.
great
That's
webinar. Great attendees. Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that's why your lip skin gets all chapped and dry in the winter.
Oh,
It's less
yeah,
humidity, right? So you got to put more lotion
yeah. They don't even sell chapstick here in the South.
on.
I go to Vegas for one day and my lips are chapped. You
Oh no,
know,
that's funny.
yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing our birds don't need.
No, no, no. That's it. That's it.
Um,
Oh, fantastic.
all right, I gotta announce the next Friday. Next Friday is the big deal. It's our holiday giveaway. So that is going to be with Lisa Bono. And boy, the holiday webinar, it's a big one. You want to be there because we are going to give away so much fabulous stuff. And Lisa's going to give us the lowdown on her top picks for birds. And that's going to start an hour earlier than usual. So, for example, my time, it would be starting at 11 Pacific Standard Time. So join us next Friday, an hour earlier than our typical time. We're going to go a little bit over an hour, but you got to be there to win. So, so
Well,
Dr.
fantastic. Sounds like Santa's coming to town.
Absolutely. Yeah. Santa will be coming to town next. Yep. Yep. Yeah, no, we'll be bringing the holiday spirit for sure. And
Yeah.
Dr. Tully, we'll be seeing you next year. Oh my gosh, in
Yes, I
2026.
know. I
Woo.
know. Way into the next year. But I look forward to a wonderful 2026, and I wish that for everyone here on the webinar and in Lafeber land there, and to you and Brenda, a very happy holiday season, and
Thank you.
Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year.
And before I forget, I almost forgot this is your 60th episode with us. So 60 episodes of Ask the Vet. That's amazing. That's
and
awesome.
and we're still learning, and we still have fantastic questions, and we and of course the 60 um, editions, webinars that we've had would not have been possible without our fantastic attendees, and
Absolutely.
that's what makes this fun, and we learn and look to continue this as long as our attendees are interested, and
Yeah.
because that's where the questions come from, and look forward to it in 2026.
Yeah, and just to clarify, that's not 60 total for Lafeber. That's 60 with Dr. Tully for Ask the Vet. 60 webinars you've done with us. It's amazing. Oh my
And
goodness.
you, Laura,
And,
and
well,
you.
mostly
That's
me.
right. Don't forget. I mean, and Brenda.
I've missed a couple, but yeah, in general. And then Brenda, behind this, yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Well, we're looking forward to continuing this in 2026 with you. Have a
And look how
wonderful
many words
holiday.
you've learned. All these words you've learned, right?
I have killed some words with pronunciations, and
But the Kepra today was a good one.
that's right. The
I have
was
trouble with that. So that's why I call it Kepra. You
there
know?
we go. Thank you. So,
All right.
all right, guys. On that note, I'm going to wish everyone a fabulous weekend. All the best to you and your birds. Till next time, take care. Be safe. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye. Uh-huh.